welcome to the Run Out. I am Neil Barrett. He is Brandon Hooten. We have a lot to get into today. First things first, though, one of us should change. I was just sitting here looking at this, and I was like, wait a minute, hold on. It's that TikTok meme where it's like, shit.
It's too cold. It's too cold. I came home. I found the nearest hoodie that's soft and warm. I was like, yep, that's the one right there. and I brought back out the icy blue because I saw they dropped some new hats this week. But I haven't checked it yet. But
I have my own issues with them, but
that's fine.
And I am not a hunter by any stretch of the imagination. But that hunter like camo, the like real tree camo with the orange, the hunter orange, I was like, why do I really want to buy this hat right now?
It looked nice. I saw Poolskis was wearing it, I think, on his Instagram story today. So
yeah,
and then the orange one, I've been asking them for an orange one for a while. So the other one, I was like, I may need to pick that up.
The purple one I was looking at, I was like, but I can't pull the trigger on it. So anyway, what you been up to the last week? Anything cool? Go to Air Force or anything?
No. I did. Hopefully the viewers saw I corrected myself last week's episode. They did not win last week. I was misled. I apologize for that. But no, they played away. I do believe they won this week. At San Jose State. Sure. Yes, 26-16. I just looked it up, November 8th. So shout out to them. But no,
still
I shot
an Air Force shirt on.
Yeah, shot high school football, some club, college club lacrosse. Yeah, picked up some cards. Got a lot of things going on.
Anything good?
Yeah, some good stuff for the next show. NFL and NBA. I have some more stuff coming. I had a card that was supposed to be delivered yesterday. Post office claimed they'd try to deliver it, and it never even was at my door. They didn't knock on it. It didn't ring, like nothing. They just sent it back to the post office. Now I got to go pick that up tomorrow and, add another thing to my list because, busiest time of year and why not add more to it, I guess. But
I had the post office ones tell me that they couldn't deliver it because my porch they couldn't get to the door because I had a fairly big front porch and they couldn't get to the door. That was like the excuse they used, and I posted a picture of it like the same moment, and it's just like a completely empty porch. I was like, what was in your way? Like the air? I don't know.
Yeah. But
anyway, that's good to hear. Little relaxing, little fun. Got some cool cards, but let's talk some NLL first. How about that? First things first, before we talk about preseason scrimmages, I feel it's necessary to put out a disclaimer that says we understand it's preseason. We understand no one is being crowned a champion. No one's even winning a real game. But there was a good amount of shuffling in the offseason, and this is our first chance to see some of those moves and get glimpses on these teams. It's also preseason, and we run a lacrosse podcast. Like, cut us some slack. Like, what else are we gonna
gotta have something to talk about?
I don't know, but like I said, no one's crowning any of these team champions. I'm old enough to remember when the Detroit Lions were 4-0 in the preseason, including beating the reigning Super Bowl champions, and then finished the season 0-16. So, like, again, I get it's preseason, but we're going to talk about it. So, the first one that I wanted to talk about, I posted about it earlier today. I don't know if you saw it or what, but some of the listeners may have. Calgary beat Rochester 16-13, and then Buffalo 13-6. I've realized Buffalo was playing without a lot of their kind of bigger name guys. I don't believe Matt Vince played at all in that game.
Pretty much no one played for them. It was
I was gonna say, I'm not even sure that
backups and stuff.
Yeah. So, like, I get it, but your boy, Mr. Manning, Noah Manning, and then I'm going to butcher his name because I don't know if he's French Canadian. I don't know how he says it. Mattieu Gautier. However,
I'm not gonna attempt it. I'll let the Canadian fans say
y'all
that
let
one
us know how you
before
say it.
before I try. But
Both of them had 6 goals this weekend. You know, my question, and again, I understand it's preseason and we're not going to draw too many questions. Did we maybe write them off a little too quickly? Again, I'm not saying that they're going to win a championship or anything, but I felt like coming out of last week when we talked about them that we were pretty down on Calgary just because of all of the exits that they had, and I just wondered, might they hang around that eight seed spot a little bit? No, no, he's like, no.
no, I mean they could definitely surprise people. They got a lot of good young guys, which that's what this week was about. Like the final score is irrelevant to me. It's about seeing those guys develop and get some confidence. That's the biggest piece for me is like getting confidence for the young guys. Like screw if they had 6 goals or 10 goals, like whatever. Like just get them acclimated and feeling like, hey, we can play at this level. And I thought Calgary showed that to an extent. Again, they're playing backups, but like those reps are important. I think they could definitely get a few more wins than some people are predicting. You know, I saw a couple very egregious predictions in some discords recently, you know, predicting some teams to get 2 wins or less, funny enough. I don't think they're that bad because you kind of luck your way into 4 wins a year, generally, at least.
I just realized you're talking about my Discord, aren't you?
I don't know which, I'm in so many. I just see the alert, I click it, I respond if I need to respond, and I've been in 3 or 4 of them this week that I was just like, what? Who is saying this? I was like, who? What? 2 wins? But yeah, so I would like to see them shock some people, including myself. But again, on paper, everyone else got better, and they just got younger. So
yeah,
they got a lot to prove.
Yeah, I think kind of what you're saying is more where I was. Like I'm not projecting them to win a bunch more games after having seen them. What I was impressed with was kind of what you're saying, like the young talent that they have on display and the idea that kind of like you have talked about with the Mammoth, the idea of like this season may be a little tough for the Mammoth, but your hope is that next season, the season after that, they can really start to build on this like core that they've built. And that was kind of my point about Calgary was that maybe there is something, again, NLL idiot over here, but coming out of our conversations last week and some of the things that I've seen and heard, I really felt like Calgary was like really almost empty cupboard. And maybe that's my own, ignorance and not fully understanding the scope of what's going on there. But to see some of those guys play, and like you said, the 6 goals, the number isn't important to me. But it was the kind of the way that they did it, the way that they were playing and stuff. I don't know. I came out feeling better about them. Again, that's not to say they're going to win a championship or even make the playoffs or anything, but along those lines, Toronto won 17-10 against the Rush. Owen Hiltz had 3 goals and 2 assists. CJ Kirst had the opposite, 2 goals and 3 assists. Josh Dowick, I can't say that, Dowick, had 4 goals and 4 assists. Again, numbers don't super matter, just kind of illustrating that they played. Our friend in the Lax Lifers Discord, Rob Josie, was specifically talked about how impressive in person, because he was at the games. And I actually watched a good chunk of this game. But how much Owen Hilt's work rate was really impressive. And again, I'm not projecting out anything, but I felt a lot better about them. I wasn't as down on them as I was on Calgary, but I definitely was like, oh, okay, I can see where this is going. And watching them play, I was like, man, Owen Hiltz for Rookie of the Year might be my pick.
I'm not putting any of that out there. This is weekend 1 of scrimmages. I didn't even watch it. Unfortunately, I wasn't available, so I have no idea what it looked like. Does it surprise me though that people are saying he looked good? Not at all.
No.
There's just certain guys like that just doesn't matter what version they're playing, they step in and they're good. immediately.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, they're gonna have a big youth movement not only this year but next year, with the other English brother coming in. So, like I said last week, like their goal just needs to be the 8 seed. Anything above that is, a bonus. But just get to the 8 seed, and I don't see why they can't do it.
To be fair, me saying Owen Hiltz, it might be my rookie of the year pick, isn't based on what he did in that game. Other than the fact that it kind of confirmed, like, oh, okay, yeah, he's probably going to be pretty good here. It was more, I was honestly thinking about it before I watched that game. I know a lot of people have CJ Kirst being the rookie of the year as kind of the projection. And I just thought maybe he's a little bit better at this than we're giving him credit. And he's going to have a big opportunity. Him and CJ Kirst are both the guys on that offense right now. So he's going to have a big opportunity. The last one that I really wanted to talk about, and it is for no other reason than what I'll get to in a minute. Rochester beat the Wings 12-8. Both teams, I think, were without a good chunk of their best players. I know the Wings were without almost all of their good players. Not too much to take from this, except for me, Michael Sowers was on the floor and did play in this game. And that for me is a big deal. I know, selfishly. Your Mammoth are going to play Toronto this coming weekend. That game will be on NLL Plus on Saturday, I think it is. Could be wrong. I think it's Saturday, though.
The 15th.
The 15th. Okay. So another game to watch. I wish more of these games were televised. I mean, I get it's preseason and nobody cares all that much, but it'd be fun to watch more.
Yeah, I feel like most of them this weekend are going to be on there. I could be totally misremembering. I'll have to find the schedule later, and we can put it on Twitter or whatnot. But I feel like I remember seeing that more than this week. We're gonna be broadcasted than last week. So hopefully that's the case.
I kind of thought so too, but then I went back and I couldn't find a schedule anywhere. Like I actually looked for one and I couldn't find a schedule anywhere. But I do know that at least the Rock games will be televised every week, and then I think, generally speaking, any other game that takes place at track will also be televised.
Yeah. They're the best setup for it by far.
Yeah. Though that being said, I know that there was more than just the Rock game this past weekend that was played at track, and the Rock game was the only one. So, like I said, we'll try to keep you guys up to date on who's playing and who's playing games that are watchable. But it is what it is at this point. Couple more weeks till the season starts. Let's move on to the PLL. The big story this weekend was the Waterdogs named Dave Cottle the GM. He is now the third GM in the league, joining Joe Spallino with the California Redwoods and Spencer Ford with the Carolina Chaos. He has a long history. I found, doing a little bit of research, I found out some things that I didn't know about him. He was a 3-time All-American at Salisbury and was the second player ever to score 100 points in a season. No idea. I had no idea that. That was pretty impressive. Then he was the winningest head coach in Loyola history before moving to Maryland and taking them to 3 Final Fours, where he then moved over to the pro game and was at various times, sometimes overlapping, but he was the president, the head coach, and GM of the Bayhawks, where he won championships in 2012, 2013, and 2019. So pretty cool. My question, I guess, to you is, do you think anyone else adds a GM before the start of the regular season? So even if it's after championship series?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's more so just, Bill needs a break, and, any time that you're getting up there in age, like, I don't think you want to take on multiple roles. And I think just having to coach a professional team and then also watch while you're that age is it's straining, honestly. So I think it's just kind of like, hey, it's time to, Do I think more teams will follow suit, relatively quickly? Yes. Like, it wouldn't shock me to see someone like Pseudo either step into a GM role full time or get one. I know Pressler's kind of talked about that as well. Like, it's tough being a GM and a coach. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Atlas do it. But I mean, it's a step in the right direction for, to be a major sport, in a major league. But I don't. I think this is kind of the one this offseason. I think last season we were in a bit of a unique situation with the two teams that kind of needed, whole new staffs. So it opened that door. But unless another team, another coach steps down, I don't think we get another one.
Well, and it's funny because we say no, or you said no at least, and it's like, we didn't expect this one to come either. I know that some people predicted that the Waterdogs would do it this season, but I wasn't sure anyone was going to add one this soon. I thought it would be more like it was with the Redwoods and the Chaos, where as these current coaches kind of phase out, as they start leaving, that the next coach that comes in would also come in with a GM. So, I was wondering, trying to think of who we have that doesn't have one now. So it's going to be Pressler, Pseudo, Coach Holman,
Bates,
and Stagnita. Those are the five that don't have one. I can't imagine Stags gets one soon anyway, unless they make him get one. The one I think I could see is maybe Coach Holman. I don't know. I could see him maybe one. That's not based on anything other than just like I could see him being one. But
I mean, if they keep underperforming, I can see him saying, "Hey, clearly something's not working." I mean, every year you look at their roster, it's pretty good, and then especially this past year, like they kind of crumbled. So I do wonder how much longer you can kind of do the same thing and it not work.
Maybe he moves to the GM role because the roster's there.
Yeah,
and we get someone else to coach. That I like Coach Holman, and I don't want to be like, it's time, but
no, but even just not at like a personal level, like having both those roles is really, really difficult. Like, especially when you're around these guys, every weekend, multiple days, to then be like, oh yeah, now I have to cut one of you, or I have to trade one of you, or oh, I love you as a person, but you're not fulfilling the role that this team needs you to fulfill. I need to find someone else. Like that can be, or that's already tough, like emotionally, I would have to imagine. And then on top of that, just like having to watch as much lacrosse as you have to, or any sport for that matter, to be a GM. Like, I love sports. I have no desire to go watch like every college game possible to find the next guy to be on my team. You know what I mean? Like, so it wouldn't shock me to see some of these guys just be like, hey, I just want one role. Like, bump me to GM, bring in a GM, but I don't want to do two anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. As much as I could get down with watching that much, it's that and trying to coach. Like, yes, that makes.
And you're not able to just watch the games as like I like watching the game. It's like, okay, I need to dial in on this guy or that guy. I need to check out his tendencies. How does he fare against, a bigger opponent or a faster opponent or whatever? And all of a sudden it just becomes like an extra job, which you're already having to coach, like we're talking about. Most of these guys potentially already also coach another team, a college team or a high school team or whatever. Like, I don't envy that job at all to do both at the professional level.
No. Let's stick with the PLL for a minute. They announced a new player movement window. It's been established for December 17th through January 16th. It's kind of a pre championship series thing. It was interesting to me that teams can sign either championship series only contracts or full regular contracts. I don't know. That seemed really interesting. They're also allowing trades during that window. It could be a pretty interesting time to kind of see what teams do and how they take advantage of that window because, you know, your NLL guys aren't coming in. If you're, I'm totally blanking on who's in the championship series this year, but like, you know, if the Archers are in it and they, you know, they want to cover some of those guys that aren't, you know, Connor Fields and Tom Schreiber and Mac O'Keefe and those guys who are going to be playing, you know, they could make some moves that only really take effect during the championship series, which there was always an ability for that. But, you know, you can sign just a championship series contract, which I think the idea is that, remember Ronan Jacoby had like the really good championship series. And then if I remember correctly, like Atlas had to make a move for him, pick him up off of waivers or whatever, do something interesting to get him on their roster. And I guess we could potentially eliminate that, assuming that, you know, someone has signed only a championship series contract. So, not too much to talk about there. It's another, you know, essentially all I could think in my head every time I've done this was a transfer window because I'm like so soccer brained. That's basically what it is. It's just another transfer window. So not a ton to talk about there, but at the same time, the WLL also announced the same kind of windows, but then they also laid out their expansion, how they're going to go from the 12-man rosters that we saw at the championship series last year, and will obviously see again at in February this year, to the full rosters come the summer for the full season. Rosters will be expanded to carry 23 players. I saw something, although it was not in my notes, but I saw a video this morning that was saying that teams can protect 8 to 12 of their current players, their current players, and then there will be a supplemental draft after the draft where people can draft. That will be for people like Kenzie Kent and Sam Apuzzo and those people who played last summer in the All-Star game but did not make the but were not on the championship series rosters. That's the word I'm looking for. And then they will have their first ever college draft. No dates were announced for that, but obviously it will be before the 2026 regular season. I won't speak for you, but I am really excited to see how these teams go from 12 to 23 players. That's, you know, math-wise, that's nearly double, so that's pretty cool. Lots of opportunities for new players. I learned a lot of players last year during well, I guess it was this year, during the championship series. Looking forward to seeing who comes in from that we don't know, that we haven't seen yet, you know. Always fun when we do that. That's one of the reasons why I like the championship series and the PLL. We get to see guys we didn't see, or, you know, D2, D3 stars. So I feel like I just rambled a whole lot. Brandon's
Nothing
like,
to
yeah,
add. Nothing to add.
keep it moving. All right, and then the last little note that I had. Oh, it's not the last thing, but the last little note was Casey Rogers was signed from the Wings to the NFL. He was a former Syracuse lacrosse commit who was cut from the Buffalo Bills in August. He was a 6'5", 305 pound defensive tackle who he has not yet made an appearance at Wings camp. This all happened right before they started last weekend. So maybe it was too quick of a turnaround. Maybe he'll be there this week. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if I think he actually makes the team, but my question was, we think he shows up in a PLL camp this spring?
I mean, I could see him taking a stab at it.
Yeah.
But it kind of, in my opinion, would depend on him making the Wings in some form. Like, I don't think if he gets cut in training camp, then some PLL team's like, oh, we need to bring him in for camp. Like, I mean, maybe, but I think it would help his case to be like, oh, hey, look, I just at least practiced for a full year with the Wings in a physical style. I got back to lacrosse. Like, you know, I just don't see a team taking a chance on him if he gets cut from the wings and then presumably isn't like all in on lacrosse for, the next 7 months.
Well, my one thought there was he's an upstate New York guy who committed to Syracuse. I don't know how much box experience he has. So my one thought was, even if he gets cut from the wings or whatever, doesn't really make any appearances, that's maybe not his game. Plus 6'5", 305. Even if he's slimmed down a little bit, because he's not a defensive tackle anymore, that is a pretty freaking big dude. There's not a ton of dudes, even in the NLL, built like that.
They should put him in goal. He should go be a goalie.
What's funny is I was actually thinking one of the only guys that even comes close that I could think of off the top of my head. Well, I guess there's two, because Brennan O'Neill is he's a little bit smaller than that, but getting up there. And then the other one I was thinking of was Brett. I know Brett Dobson's pretty big too. He ain't 305, but
well, I mean, I don't think either of those guys are close to 305, but they're of probably heavier amongst lacrosse players. But I mean, even like a Zed Williams, same type of thing. Like you can do it. I just don't know if you're going to do it when you're coming back for the first time in that type of environment. You're on a bad team, so you don't have as much help around you, But it's fun to think about, and I hope for his sake he makes it.
How big is Zed? I'm looking it up. 6'2", 250. So like,
yeah.
Zed is a big dude for lacrosse, and he's got 3 pounds and 55.
I mean, I watched him body slam a dude in a fight because he was just that much bigger and stronger. He just picked him up and just drove him into the ground, and then held him down by the arms. Like, there's a picture of it. I think I have a picture of it. I'll try to find it, where he's holding the dude down. He's that big. So you can definitely do it, but Mr. Rogers is definitely going to have to slim down at least a bit, because that conditioning is going to be no joke if both in camp and in games. But
yeah, Brennan O'Neill is 6'3", 240, by the way. So
yeah,
that should give you some understanding when Zed and Brennan O'Neill are going to be like dwarfed by this dude. But that was another reason why I was wondering about the PLL, is because he'll have some time, presumably with the stick in his hands, a lot more time, because how much has he had a stick in his hands in the last 4 or 5 years? 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know. I should have written down what year he committed. I want to say it was like 2017, something like that. So he'll have some time with the stick in his hands. He'll have some time to like get into a more of a lacrosse shape than a defensive tackle shape. And we know the PLL loves to bring in guys that can, kind of make a story, get them some kind of attention. So I was just wondering if that would be, if you thought something that he might show up there. So
maybe. I hope for his sake he does. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
It seemed to be like pretty positive feedback this week on it. So, if that's going to help him further a career, and the leagues further their eyes on the sport, like, sure. I just don't know anything about him, even lacrosse wise. So that's why I don't like, if he ends up being a baller, then like, I hope he makes the team, because that'd be fun to watch. I
think what I saw was that he was like a 5-star lacrosse. I could be wrong on that, but I think he was a 5-star lacrosse recruit who then got an opportunity to go play football at Nebraska. And then he transferred after 2 years from Nebraska. And I'm totally blanking on where he played. Oregon. That's where it was. Nebraska and Oregon are where he played. And then I think he went undrafted, but then he was picked up by the Giants, and then he was signed with the Bills, and then they cut him in August. I don't think he ever played for them, but I think it could be one of those things that works out. I told you before we hopped on the air that it was very fun to see nobody like poo-pooing it, no one being like, oh, this is terrible, it makes the NLL a joke. Like they often say in the PLL, whether it's Chris Hogan or anyone else, they they like to poo-poo it and say that it makes the league a joke, but things like that happen all the time in most major league sports, you know.
I mean, Zed got a camp tryout for the Bills last year.
Yep. You know, and you know, Russell Wilson went to Rangers camp while he was a star NFL quarterback. Like, you know, these kinds of things happen. They are what they are. Like, I don't understand. Let's move back to the box real quick. There was a Mammoth trade that might maybe be setting up some future moves.
They don't want to hear it. My boy Deej called me a liar this week on Twitter talking about that trade.
He did.
Talking about, you been talking about it for a month, homie. That was last week, dog. Anyway, yeah, nothing major. Trade Brian Cameron to the Wings. You know, second lefty to get traded in a week and a half now. So a 4th round pick next year, and Brian Cameron goes to the Wings for a 2nd round pick next year. I was telling Neil before we jumped on, it's kind of funny because when they acquired Brian Cameron early this offseason, they got a 27 4th round pick with him, and now they're shipping out a 26 4th round pick with him again. So he cannot escape 4th round picks. I hope if he gets traded again, it's not with the 4th. But it makes sense. We had too many lefties, and you know, I would assume he lives on that side of North America. I would hope, for his sake, since he played for Toronto. But I think that gets us down to like a solid 5 lefties by my count. There might be more on the training camp roster still, but I think that cut it down quite a bit. So
what, NLL ignorance here, what is a, you know, normal kind of breakdown for that?
As far as
like the balance of righties and like, I mean, I'm sure it's going to depend slightly. Like, I'm not asking for a specific number, but is 5 lefties coming in going to be normal? Are they still going to drop 1-ish, 2-ish? You know, like, what's the normal kind of number that they're you would expect them to bring into the regular season? I'm sure they'll keep some guys on a practice roster or whatever just in case, but
yeah, I would have to look. I know Halifax put out a cool graphic that kind of had their breakdown, and they had like 2 more lefties, I want to say, than they did righties offensively. So it kind of depends on like what scheme they want. Like, yeah, here it is. They had, so Halifax specifically had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lefties offensively compared to 5 righties. So they're probably going to run a more lefty dominant offense. That said, Cole Kirst is also holding out right now. So technically it'd be like 8 and 6. So it's somewhere in there.
Is that for training camp, or is that for the season?
That's what they're bringing into training camp.
The training camp.
But that you can also then take that and kind of apply it to the regular season as well. Like, and especially because like some guys, funny story, the Mammoth this year converted Owen Ron to forward. Well, he was a defenseman last year. So like this year they can bring him in as a forward and then still say, oh, hey, we have too many forwards. You're going to go back and play D if that needs to happen. Otherwise they can just say stay over here. But like last year, I want to say seeing him in like the halls, there'd be 2 or 3. I think I want to say 2 like lefties or 2 righties offensively that were not dressing, but were still on the roster. On like the practice roster. So it depends on the team, but you know, I'm sure you could go even since there's 5 players on the field. If you can just do 3 righties, 2 lefties, and then next possession go 3 lefties, 2 righties. But I'll have to pay attention this year to see if we run a specific combination, because now I'm curious.
Is that the typical kind of makeup? Again, I know it's going to fluctuate between teams, but is it usually 2 lines of forwards more or less, and then probably 2 lines of defenders or whatever? I don't even know how many people sit on the bench, like how many players make the game day roster.
Yeah, it's I don't want to get in like the hockey sense of like two lines where like you're swapping out the entire line and now it's a whole new. But it is very much like I can speak specifically to Colorado. They had last year like Connor Robinson, Eli McLaughlin, and Will Malcolm would be like the three. But then, every now and then like Connor would stay on the bench and now like Thomas Vela would come on, for instance. And then the next time, most times it wasn't them, but maybe Eli needs a break and now Connor comes back in or, whoever else comes in. So it's like a line and a half, if you will, essentially just to get guys breaks on both sides. But again, if you're running a lefty dominant offense, then you need more lefties anyway. So you need at least, I have to find a roster to send to you. I want to say probably 8 or 9. That might even be pushing it, 8 or 9 forwards, maybe per game day. Because I'm trying to remember I'll try to find a game day roster from last year to send it to you because I'm almost certain it's like 8 or 9.
Well, I was watching them and seeing them, but it was never something I even thought about until you're sitting here talking about like, the breakdown of how many righties you guys have, how many lefties you have. And I'm like, I need some kind of context for this. Like, I don't understand how much of that is what obviously when you have like 9 of one and 4 of the other, it's like, okay, there's an imbalance. Like I can understand that, but I don't know, what the kind of context is.
It's also just tough when you have guys that like you're trading for guys that played a lot. And so now you have, 7 guys that are legit players. So no disrespect to practice squad guys, but they're not practice squad guys. So, now you have them and it's like they can either sit on the bench and they're probably traveling far. They're not getting paid the same. I don't hold me to that. And they're not playing. So they're unhappy. Or you can say, hey, we can trade you over here. You'll probably get to play, all this stuff is just better that way. But especially a team like Colorado where like, I've been talking about it for weeks now. Like we had such a big imbalance on the left side that's like, someone else has to go. Even after Connor Robinson left, we still had too many. So.
Well, maybe that will change shortly.
I mean, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping week 1. I'm not holding out hope for it though. But speaking of guys moving, there is a report. I don't know if you saw Adam Levy's article this week about Georgia Swarm missing a couple of guys. The 2 Thompsons not named Lyle are not coming back. There was 3 others as well. I'm pulling it up. Joey Capito, I guess, got an injury in Senior B, so he's not starting the year with them, similar to Tom Schreiber. Liam Burns, Seth Oakes, Angus Goodleaf have not been signed to new deals, and John Rannigan retired. And then, allegedly, according to Elliot Frickman, 2 bigger names could be on the move as well. And he put that underneath the Swarm article, to which our good friend Dawson J. Nielsen said, it's real, it's not small, it'll sting the beehive. So we'll see what happens in Georgia. Some people are already throwing out Lyle to Buffalo or Lyle to Halifax. I don't see any of that happening, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
It would be nuts for them to do it, but also put my hands up. NLL idiot over here. When you say 2 big names, I'm like, I can think of only 2 big names on that roster right now. So
and Lyle does live up.
Yep.
In that area. I could see. I'll say this. If it is Lyle, I could see Halifax making a ton of sense. I don't see him going to Buffalo. And let me put it this way: if the Georgia Swarm trade Lyle Thompson to Buffalo, there's not enough value they're going to get back for Lyle Thompson, and that would be a dumb trade unless they know for a fact that Lyle's going to leave the next chance he gets. If it's a situation where it's like he's gone and that's the only opportunity you have to trade him, then maybe you do it. But I think like Halifax, like they just got Bomberry as well from the Swarm, excuse me, and they both play for the Chiefs as well. So like maybe it's like a situation where he's like, hey, I can just go and ball out with a bunch of my homies. I mean, they already have half the Chiefs roster there.
Yeah. The other two, and this is purely logistical. I'm not suggesting that it necessarily makes NLL sense, but the other two that I could see from a logistics point would be the Rock, which doesn't make a ton of sense other than the fact that, kind of like you laid out, they might have some capital that they could give up to bring him in. And then Oshawa makes, again, logistical sense for similar reasons.
Yeah.
It's right there, and we know that was the reason why he stopped playing in the PLL, was because he wanted to be closer to his family and be able to be around them. His kids are, at that age where like it's important for him to be around the things that they're doing. They're probably starting to play sports and do things themselves, and he could want to be around that. So Lyle makes a lot of sense. Here's the question for you. This is a leap. This is an assumption to make, but let's assume that the one is Lyle. Who would be the second
one? I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that. I think everyone knows the other superstar in Georgia. But I'm not totally sure there's any real attraction to that. But now that this report is out, as we're recording, it makes me question if the big guy could be on the move.
The big guy.
I'm curious who your two superstars are that you said you can name on the roster.
Hold on, I'm looking at the roster right now. So obviously they just got Connor Kelly. I don't think they're bringing him in to then trade him out. It could happen.
No, I wasn't even thinking Connor Kelly, to be totally.
No, I didn't figure that you were. I'm literally just looking at the roster and looking at like, who do I know on this roster? I do know Shane Jackson. I don't think that I would necessarily think of him as like that level, like super painful if he left. Again,
if
I know
you're Georgia though,
McIntosh,
after losing some of the guys they lost, losing Shane Jackson could be a big hit.
That's fair. Jordan McIntosh, I know is a very good player. I know Mike Manley, probably more so from Duke.
It won't be Mike Manley for sure. I know that.
No, and if it was like, again, not a painful thing to lose what is Mike Manley, 36? Something like that. A 36-year-old defenseman that like I didn't even know played for the Georgia Swarm. Zach Miller, I know. Yeah, I mean it's the only other player on here that like is that level is Brett Dobson. Am I wrong? Oh, am I wrong on that? I'm not saying that it is or isn't going to be involving him.
He's the only other one that I would put at Lyle's level, in air quotes. There's no one that's going to be up that at a level like Lyle, but when we're talking about trading your superstars,
right?
I think he's, and it's not that I think it's hard because I'm also thinking in the future. If Georgia really does end up moving, does Brett Dobson want to go play? If they move to Canada, does he want to play in Canada? If not, you need to trade him now. Does it somehow tie into a 3-team deal, potentially? Moving around draft picks, moving around, if Dobson is able to go, I don't know where he lives full time, but if he's able to go somewhere that makes more logistical sense for him, the Swarm get back picks, especially because it sounds like with all the guys that aren't re-signing with them, they're in at least a mini rebuild, if not going to be a full one here soon. I don't think I would trade Dauber. But, if there are other teams trying to get deals done and they need a third team to kind of complete it, then maybe that happens.
One thing I will say, because I have their site up in front of me. and they have already taken headshots in those new uniforms. Remember, they got new uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Brett Dobson don't have one. Now, I mean, that could be nothing. Probably is literally nothing. He might have just missed the day. He couldn't make the day they took the headshots. That's probably what it is. But it is interesting.
And I do believe they did their media day in Canada as well. So that could have been I know he is Canadian, so I'm not saying like it's a travel issue. It could have just been that he literally just was somewhere else. Because I know he himself has been traveling across the U.S. for like.
Well, and to your point, he was at the Atlanta street lacrosse event for the PLL.
Yeah.
So yeah, he could have just had a prior engagement. Interesting though that Lyle Thompson is also one of the players who does not have a headshot in the new uniform.
Which that's even more interesting because he was there at media day. There was photos. I'm almost certain, I'll try to find them, that they posted of him because he didn't have his hair done. If I'm remembering correctly, like he was there. So unless they're just are slow with updating it, which I mean, let's be honest, this league has a tendency to do that. I mean, even if you look at some of the rosters right now, they're still not close to accurate. We could be overthinking this, but
I'm nearly positive we're overthinking this. Like, again, I am not suggesting this is. It's just one of those things that because it's up, because I was looking at it to see like, oh, they don't have those headshots. And again, I can almost guarantee it's nothing. They are not the only two that don't have headshots. There are some other players that don't have headshots. It's just interesting to be talking about them and see it and go, huh. Tinfoil hat, I will admit that is 100% a tinfoil hat thing right there. But it was, like I said, just interesting to see. But yeah, when the headline that's out there is that there are two superstars preparing to leave Georgia, and you look at the roster and you go, well, there's only two superstars on this roster. Yeah. That would hurt. That would hurt a lot.
And I will say too, Elliot Frickman did he said two, quote, bigger names. So for all we know, we could be conflating the two, bigger and superstars. Maybe it's just a big name, but not to that level, But it's fun to think about, and especially, and I'll say this too, because there are people that are going to be like upset about like speculating and whatnot, like. These couple of tweets were clearly put out for people to speculate and to have fun with. So that's all this is. We don't need people saying that like, well, you said this. Like, no, we're taking guesses here. Just like everyone else in the comments immediately saying Buffalo's going to trade for Lyle.
What did I say at the beginning of the show? It's preseason. We're going to talk about preseason-y things. Yeah. Like, there's not a.
I happened to see it and I was like, hey, this is live stuff that. And that could be a huge shakeup. That literally would change Georgia's entire team. Like, especially losing Lyle. I'm surprised Lyle stuck around as long as he has.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that he's quite to the age of being like a UFA, but like you're Lyle Thompson, you probably could have forced the trade if you really wanted it. So maybe he doesn't want to leave Georgia, and it'll end up being someone else, and he's just going to stick around. But also, like, he was there with his two brothers. And now his brothers aren't there. How does that change things?
Again, this is going way down the rabbit hole of a tinfoil hat idea that we have already admitted is a tinfoil hat. But let's say he ends up playing somewhere closer to home for the NLL season. Might we see Lyle back in the PLL?
No.
He says no. I could see it. I'm not saying it will or it won't happen, but like we talked about, he wants to be around his kids and his family and stuff. And if he can do that most of the school year, because I feel like, and I don't know exactly how old his kids are, but I feel like they're getting to that age where like school sports, school plays, all those kinds of things. That's the school year. So like you want to be home for that. And then in the summer, I don't know about you guys, but I was gone most of the summer. Like I wasn't around for my parents when I started getting into like, especially later in middle school and into like early high school. And again, I think Lyle has 5 kids, I think it is. And I know some of them are probably a little bit younger. So maybe we're not there yet, but just a thought. Again, down the rabbit hole of a tinfoil hat, like way down the line, way down the line. But just something to think about. Just before we wrap it up, I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but I did have AI predict the NLL season for you.
AI doesn't even know who's on the teams.
They actually do. So I had them look back at the last 4 seasons, evaluate the seasons, and then look at who came and went and everything. I will say I think they relied a little bit too heavily on who came and went. They do have the Colorado Mammoth dead last though.
Yeah, because it's an idiot. It's awful.
This is the quote: severe loss of elite offensive production with Williams and Robinson leaving. I would also
wait. So it doesn't mention Connor Kelly.
I was getting ready to say, I think when I did this, it was before the Connor Kelly trade.
Well, Connor Kelly got traded after Zed, but before Robinson.
When did Connor Kelly get traded?
Connor Kelly got traded
like last week. Not last week.
No, like this was like close to a month now. This was this October 22nd. So I guess what was that, 3 weeks ago?
Something like that. Yeah.
And then Connor Robinson got traded on October 29th. So a week later. And Zed obviously got traded in, the summer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So AI can't even get its timelines right. I'm not putting any stock into this.
Let's see. Hold on. I'm gonna go find the Oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Just kidding. I thought they wrote some paragraphs about some of the teams. Like I said, they really relied probably too heavily on the comings and goings. You guys are 1 game back of Philadelphia, who's 1 game back of Oshawa and Rochester.
Who was 1 game back from Rochester?
The Wings were. So the Mammoth they have at 4-14, the Wings at 5-13, Oshawa and Rochester at 6-12.
Rochester at 6-12. So wait a minute. So Zed Williams is such a huge loss that's gonna make the Mammoth win 4 games, but the Rochester Nighthawks adding Zed Williams only gives them 6 wins. This is why AI's junk. What are we doing here?
Listen, you can say that, and I'm not even saying that you're wrong. But I have heard from NLL people, not all of them, some of them, that they don't think Rochester's going to be even as good as they were last year. So
I disagree, but I welcome the opportunity to look foolish.
The one thing I will say is it's a little hard to know what Zed is getting. Are you getting previous Zed back? Or are you going to have something different? That could be a little bit up in the air. By the way, just to finish this out, Ottawa 7-11, Georgia 8-10. Although over-reliance on Lyle Thompson is the headline of their Georgia Swarm. If he's gone, I don't think you have to worry about last place.
I'm not worried about it anyway.
Do you think this year, honestly asking you here, and we are going to do some predictions in a couple of weeks before the season starts, but before we get to that, do you think the Mammoth make the playoffs this year?
Yes. because I think they got better offensively. I think they'll be better defensively. And I think if/when Jack Hanna gets here, that makes them even better. You're getting Liger back as well at some point. The only reason they didn't make the playoffs last year, and I mean, people can say it's biased if they want, but like it's the truth. Look at the timeline of when they lost certain guys. Look at what they were doing before Eli McLaughlin had to step away from the team, and then look at what snowballed after that. I mean, I don't remember if he left before or after Zed tore his Achilles, but it was pretty close to each other to where those things happened, and then all of a sudden it was like injuries on the back end started happening where you'd lose a guy or two per game. So then all of a sudden, I mean, Dylan Ward had a kid at one point, and we got smacked. I think we got like 14 put on our head by, who was it? It was a Canadian team, I want to say. Like, it was Nate Whittam's first game, like, in goal. Like, and then you look at all of a sudden, it's like, it snowballed to where now we're 8-10 or whatever out of the playoffs. Like, I really think they would have made it last year, and I think maybe this is me hyping up Andrew Q in my head. Andrew Q's a baller. Like, he's incredible. So I think that'll help. I think Ryan Lee will have good chemistry with everybody again. Like, I love Connor Robinson, but I think Will Malcolm's now gonna have a bigger role. I think they'll be fighting for the 7th or 8th seed. Best case, I would say 6th seed, maybe 5th if everything goes to plan. But I think there's other teams that are at least regular season wise, like, going to be really, really good. But like we've seen, as long as you're in the dance, it doesn't really matter. But I like early on, I mean, Vancouver, Buffalo, Rochester. I think Halifax will make the playoffs pretty easily. How well they do in the playoffs, that's another story, another conversation. But I think those 4 are up there. I mean, San Diego's going to be fighting depending on if Origlieri can play. Toronto's going to be fighting. I'm not super high on like Ottawa or Oshawa. But what do they look like? They both improved, I think. There's only a couple teams that I don't see actually fighting for that 7th or 8th seed. But long answer, yes, we're going to make the playoffs, especially with Jack Hanna on the roster. If it doesn't happen, I look foolish, and that's going to suck, but, I'll take it.
Okay. All right. Listen, you're when it comes to the NLL, you are the expert on this show.
Oh, I'm a fan. I'm not an expert. Let's get that straight. I'm a photographer and fan.
Let me rephrase. Of the two of us, you are the NLL.
All right, that's
expert.
fair. I don't need anyone coming in my mentions talking about you're the expert. You're a media member. No. I'm making guesses here.
I get it. I already hit.
Like, if the Mammoth are going to be bad, it's going to have to be either this year and next year, because the next 2 draft classes are insane. But next year, Jack Kask, who is Coquitlam's junior goalie, who's coached by Pat Coyle, will be draftable. And that's who we need to follow up Dylan Ward's career. So we need to find a way to trade for a first-round pick of whoever's going to suck next year.
How much longer? I was literally just thinking about this because I had his stats up and then I decided to move on. But you brought him up. How much longer do you think Dylan Ward's got?
Quite a while.
In the NLL, anyway.
Quite a while. I mean, he said it himself in a press conference that's why heading into last PLL season, I said I think it's going to be his last before I even saw him play, because he made a comment that basically said he alluded to wanting to play box as long as possible. And like, you watch him play and like, you can argue he's not in his prime, but he's certainly not in the bottom half of the league. I know people will say otherwise. Like, I mean, you can look at the numbers, you can watch the play. You also got to understand the last couple of years he's playing with a young defense that's coming into their own. So I, as a fan, expect that defense to make a jump this year. If they don't, obviously that's going to be an issue. But like, it's year 3 for a lot of them, year 4 for some. Like, it's, so I think that'll help as well. But as long as he's just serviceable, like, he doesn't have to be top 3 the rest of his career. As long as he's top 6 or 7, no pun intended. Sorry about that for the parents out there and the teachers that have to deal with that 6-7 joke all day, every day. I see him playing another 5+ years. Bucks.
5?
Yeah.
Hold on. How old? Isn't he like 37?
No, he's not 30. He's like 34.
He's 34. All right.
Is he actually?
He's 34. Yeah.
Look at me, dude.
Well,
I know my team. Definitely didn't just guess that.
I definitely didn't just guess that. I knew it.
Now, if he has another kid, that could change it. But he only has 2 right now. So, you know. But also, if he plays another 5, that gives us a good chance to get a backup in there that can take that spot in the future. Now, whether that's Nate Whittam, who's currently on the roster, you know, he has another year of junior still, Nate Whittam. And he just played last year, was his rookie season. So he still has a bunch of time if Wardo can play 5 years to get up. Yeah. Otherwise, you draft the goalie in the next year or 2, and then you got extra time then. I know they have I'm blanking on his name right now. His first name's Caleb, I believe, in training camp, who I've heard some decent things about. Just 5 years. Just need 5 years. Maybe less.
All right. So
he already's going to have his number in the rafters even if he retired today. So,
but you think he's done in the PLL?
Yeah, I still. Of course, he's waited. If he's done in the PLL, he's waiting a long time to announce it. So maybe he's not done this year. But I felt like the writing on the wall was Matt DeLuca's coming in. He's going to be the guy. But then, I mean, talk about the Waterdogs. They didn't actually give DeLuca the reins, which I expected them to do. So from that standpoint, maybe he sticks around. And I mean, and honestly, he could just be an Adam Gittleman and just have the easiest job in the PLL. All you have to do is worry about, hey, coach, challenge the play. If he's willing to run an iPad, dude, he could last in that league for a decade, you know?
I legitimately forgot Adam Gittleman was not retired until like middle of the season. I was watching a Cannons game and I was like, wait, Adam Gittleman is still there? I thought he was done. I thought he had retired. I completely forgot. Because it's probably been 2 full seasons since he played a game.
I mean, after Colin Kurtz took the job, it's just been he's just been on the iPad.
It's just
which I'm not knocking, by the way. Like, that's, if you can stick around in the league and come in and make a couple saves every now and then, like, by all means, you know, like.
Well, and especially when you already had that level of a career anyway. Like, who cares? Let's see.
I'll see if I can get a gauge on Wardo this season. I don't know if I can directly ask him. I don't know if I want to be that direct, but you know, we'll see. So
Adam Gittleman played through 2022. That was his last season with the Archers. He played 9 games in that season. In 2023, he played 3 games with the Cannons. I think if I remember correctly, I think he started that season, and then that's when Cole Kurtz came in and took over. Colin, whichever one of the Curses the goalie.
C. Kurtz. When C. Kurtz took over.
Yeah, when C. Kurtz, that's right. In 2024, he played no games. And then this past year, it says that he played 1 game, but he had no saves, no scores against, no goal. Like, he must have just kind of stood in goal for the last, 2 minutes of a game or something and didn't even face a shot because there's literally no stats against him. So, he basically hasn't played in 2 years. And also, to your point that I'm aware of, has not announced a retirement. So at this point, I would expect to see him in camp.
Yeah.
Did the Cannons? Oh my God. Why don't I know more about who's playing in the championship series? Okay, the Cannons. The Cannons didn't make it. Yeah, they were. I forgot they were like the second worst team. So he won't be there. Which is funny because he was. Do you remember that he made the 2022 World Games roster for sixes, and they brought him because he could play in goal and play in the outfield.
Yeah.
So, funny that he won't be there. But anyway, yeah, I'm like you. If he doesn't want to be a backup, like I get it, and I think that window is closing if it hasn't already closed. But yeah, if he's willing to be on the sidelines and be the backup guy, that can. Who's got a better backup than Dylan Ward? Not very many teams, if any. So
I mean, maybe Austin Cal. But I would put them in like the same tier as far as a backup goes, where like they can come in, they can win you some games, they can make some saves. Like I full transparency, I'm always gonna kind of, I don't want to say overrate, that's probably the wrong word, but for lack of a better term, overrate Dylan Ward, no matter what. Like he had a tough year last year. I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah.
But like I'm always going to believe that he can come in and steal a game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's field. That's not even including like box. Like I have the most confidence in the world. I really don't care how many games we've lost the last 2 years. Like I've seen him make plays that I'm like, I don't even know how you went pipe to pipe like that. Like, so.
To your point, I was looking, I had his stats up, and I guess I'm just so like, PLL field kind of focused. I just got, and the Mammoth they weren't particularly good last year. And in my brain, I just thought, oh, well, he must have struggled for them, similar to how he struggled for the Waterdogs this summer. And so when I saw his stats, I was like, oh, no, these are actually like really good, like up there with some of the people that with the Nick Roses and stuff like that. So I was like, oh no, so he really wasn't that bad. Like you said, it has a lot more to do with, the defense in front of him. Probably even maybe a little bit more than that, even the fact that the offense was so out of whack all season that they were just facing it the whole time.
Yeah. And that's something that I've mentioned this on other shows, but the listeners will get this from me a lot of like goalie stats absolutely matter, but it's a lot more about the defense in front of you, especially when we're talking about tight quarters like that. Like if you're giving up, goal line dives and stuff like that's tough to stop in the box game. And, fast break, like the Mammoth specifically, one of my big complaints the last couple seasons was the first quarter specifically, they would come out and not have a settled offense. They would just go and take the first shot available. Well, now the transition is the other way. You can't ask your goalie to bail you out, 10 times a game. Like he can bail you out a couple of times, but that's not going to happen. So like most times I'm going to say, hey, the defense has to be better. There are a couple saves that I'm going to be like, yeah, you got to save that. Like that's routine. But yeah, you look at his numbers and it's like, oh, he actually played pretty well. Yeah, he had a couple games here and there that's like, that was 14 goals or whatever, or 13 goals. But then they have times where I'm like we lost to Toronto 9-8.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that's on the offense. Like that means Wardle stood on his head and the defense did their job. And the offense, like you're saying, the offense didn't do their job. Like, yeah. And that's how I view a lot of goalies, where I'm like, if you give everyone the Bandits defense, do they all? Now Matt Vince is still the GOAT. I'm not disputing that. But if you give them that defense, do they immediately get better? Absolutely. Like it's just like I saw the conversation in the Lax Show's Discord the other day. They were talking about like, top 5 or top 10 goalies of all time or something. And one of the guys was trying to argue that Ward was not a top 5 goalie. And I was like, what? Look at the numbers, dude. Like, I'm sorry. And then he tried to bring up like recents and stuff. And I'm like, he wasn't that bad. Like he really was good. So yeah, it's a long tangent. I'm going to defend my guy no matter what. But
listen, I got no dislike for Dylan Ward, but he's not on. Don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. We're not bringing that back up. It's not like I'm a Dylan Ward guy. He's never played for any of my teams or anything. It's not like I'm a Dylan Ward guy, but I'm also not a Dylan Ward hater. And I'm with you though. Like I don't think that was by by and large on him last year. And we talked about it all summer too with the Waterdogs about the idea of like, there's more than just stats to being goalie. You know, the whole reason there was the big debate about Dylan Ward versus DeLuca. DeLuca was clearly having a better season in goal, but it didn't matter because they were losing. It was the same sort of things that you were talking about. You know, Wardo had the was it 24 or 29% game and they won. Yeah. Like there was just something about the way that team played with Dylan Ward behind them that you know showed very clearly how many other things there are, not necessarily more important or less important, but how many other things there are besides just keeping the ball out of the back of the net. So, with all of that being said, that's what I'm trying to say. Let's get out of here. That will wrap up the discussion this week. If you want to jump in to the conversation, the best way that you can do that is by joining the Lax Lifers Club. That's the home for our entire community. It went decently well first week in to the Lax Lifers Club. Picked up a little bit over the weekend with some of the games that were going on, and then people got a little busy earlier this week, but hopefully that continues to grow and expand. It's been pretty fun. When you join the Lax Lifers Club, you will get access to our Discord community. You will get episodes of the Run Out 48 hours early and gain access to exclusive things like Hangouts. You get to directly interact with me and Brandon and other Lax Lifers. You will be able to help us build this community of passionate lacrosse fans, and you can find all of the details and tiers by hitting the link in our show notes or the video description if you're watching on YouTube. You can find both of us on social media. Brandon is at Hoot Sports Media, and I am Neil Barrett. Like, subscribe, rate, share, and review the show on whatever platform you are listening to the show on. I can't even begin to explain how much that helps our show. Next week, we will be joined by Adam Levy once again. That should be pretty fun to get to talk to him and have Brandon there this time. He was on the show last year, but it was just me. So I expect some much more intelligent questions than what I asked him last year.
We'll see what we can put together for the short time frame.
Yeah, he does have a little bit of a limited time frame, but we will try to make it as good and impactful as we can make it with him next week. But that is it for this week. So until next time, as always, we'll catch you in the comments.